Good evening. Welcome to a very special program, the second in our series of surveys ahead of the Karnataka elections, where we are trying to gauge the mood of people in the state on key issues ahead of this very critical election. I'm Vishnu Shaw.
I'm Veeraraghavan. On the show tonight, just as we promised last evening, Vishnu, the big findings of the NDTV Lokniti-CSDS survey on Karnataka, the answer to the big question on who is the most popular choice for Chief Minister, and much more data insights coming up.
Well, let's just give you a few details on how this particular survey has been done. This is important. The findings of the survey that we bring you this evening, they've been conducted by the Lokniti program for the Center for the Study of Developing Societies. The survey was conducted between the 20th and 28th of April. There were 2,143 voters who were asked questions. These voters were spread across 82 polling stations in randomly selected 21 assembly constituencies. Interviews were conducted face-to-face at the elector's home by field investigators. The questionnaire itself was translated into Kannada. It took between 15 to 20 minutes for each interview to be completed. This is important because it's not an instant sort of survey. There were a lot of questions which were asked, and there was a lot of time spent on getting answers. Though the sample is relatively small, we believe it is truly representative of the voters of Karnataka in terms of social composition.
And the man who led that entire survey is Sanjay Kumar of Lokniti-CSDS. Sanjay, just take us through quickly the three key reasons why this survey's credibility is much higher than perhaps another one.
One, the sample is representative, and you need a representative sample for doing a survey, whether it is for election or for any other issue. So we have a sample, small but a representative sample of voters of Karnataka. Second, questions should be asked in the language spoken by the people. Karnataka, large number of people speak Kannada language, so we have translated the questionnaire in Kannada language, and it is important to have a face-to-face conversation. This is unlike many other polls these days which are being conducted over telephone and various other means without getting questionnaire translated in local language. I think these three things make this poll really special.
And the findings are extraordinary as well.
Right. In fact, we can get to the findings in a moment. But first, let me introduce the panelists on the program this evening. Sanjal Shastri with us in the studio. You've already met Professor Sanjay Kumar at CSDS. Professor Chandan Gowda joins us as well. Sugata Srinivas Raju, Professor James Manner, and we'll be joined by GVL Narasimha Rao of the BJP in a while, and Rajiv Gowda of the Congress with us. We're also joined by the JDS spokesperson Syed Aslam. So let's get the fun started with the first set of graphics.
That's right, Vishnu. And to my mind, this is possibly the most important set of graphics because it gives a very deep understanding of what's happening on that core caste basis of the Vokkaligas and the Lingayats, which has often determined the final narrative in Karnataka politics. The big findings of the CSDS Lokniti poll is Vokkaligas seem to be divided amongst the Congress 34% and 36% amongst the JDS. It's not completely in favor of the JDS. Vokkaligas seem to be divided amongst the Congress and the JDS. 34% in favor of the Congress, 36% in favor of the JDS. Lingayats seem to be with the BJP, 67% intending to vote for it. Muslims, 59% inclined to vote for the Congress. Amongst poor voters, 50%. Congress is far more popular than the BJP, which only gets 23%. 46% amongst rich voters favor the BJP. 31% amongst the Congress favor the BJP. So the BJP is still having a stronghold amongst rich voters. Let's also give you more data before we get into analysis and a discussion on it after those 5 big points. Preferred party for various issues. Now the question that was asked is, in your opinion, which one of these parties is A, more corrupt? Congress 35% respondents, BJP 59% respondents said BJP is more corrupt, only 3% said JDS is more corrupt. More nepotistic, 30% said Congress is more nepotistic, 59% said BJP is more nepotistic, 8% said JDS is more nepotistic. More faction-ridden, 30% said Congress is more faction-ridden, 55% said BJP is more faction-ridden, 12% said JDS is more faction-ridden. Best for Karnataka's development, 47% said Congress, 37% to the BJP and 14% to JDS. Maintaining religious harmony, 49% to the Congress, 34% to the BJP and 14% to the JDS. Protecting Karnataka's interests in the border dispute with Maharashtra, 40% for Congress, 40% for BJP and only 14% for the regional party. That's the first big set of numbers we're throwing at you this evening, and these numbers to a political observer in Karnataka are extremely important, Vishnu.
Absolutely.
Because the Vokkaliga vote, and I'm going to take it point by point. The first point, the Vokkaliga vote being divided between the Congress and the JDS. Much has been spoken, Sanjay, about the BJP-Congress battle. This is a revelation into the JDS-Congress battle in the old Mysore region. How significant do you think this number is?
I think, Veera, you have already, your statement already has a reply hidden in that. Because the contest in Karnataka at this moment seems to be between BJP and Congress, so all those voters who don't want to vote for BJP seems to be uniting in favor of Congress, and that seems to be happening with regard to the Vokkaliga vote. Vokkaliga vote used to go to JDS in a slightly bigger proportion if we look at the earlier election. At the moment, 10 days before election, remember this is a survey which has been conducted 10 days before the polling. At this moment, it seems that the Vokkaliga vote is divided. Still JDS has an edge, but a sizable number of them intends to vote for Congress.
And, in fact, let me just go across to Professor James Manner. I mean, it is interesting, the Vokkaliga situation, and the fact that this survey throws up the split between the JDS and the Congress, not just in favor of the JDS, it's 36 for the JDS, 34 for the Congress. But if you look at some of the other factors, and what are the other points? Lingayats, this was widely expected to be with the BJP, so no surprises over there. Muslims, 59% inclined to vote for the Congress. In terms of voter preference for different castes and class, what, Professor Manna, strikes you as being really significant here?
The figures for the Vokkaligas suggest that the JDS may struggle to maintain its usual group of seats in southern Karnataka, and the Congress may make gains there. The BJP will struggle in southern Karnataka to make gains. The 59% of the Muslim vote for Congress seems to be good news for Congress. They had worried that the JDS, which has a Muslim president, might take away some votes, and that small parties representing Muslim interests might also take away votes. It's very significant, I think, that among the poor, who do turn out to vote in significant numbers, half of them are in favor of Congress and only 23% for the BJP. And then the numbers that you gave on corruption, on faction-ridden, on the best for development and the maintenance of communal peace, all of these seem to give Congress a significant edge.
Right.
So I think
right.
On the whole, the poll is good news for Congress.
Professor Manor, I just want to get Sugata Srinivasa Raju, and just to introduce to all our panelists, he's Deva Gowda's biographer as well. Sugata, quick question to you on if the JDS is fighting a battle for survival, and this kind of a number, what do you think the import is for the JDS in these elections? Quick reaction from you and Chandan Gowda before we go to the next set of graphics.
Yeah, the 36% that you showed, I mean, the Vokkaliga graph that you showed, 36% preferring JDS. I think in the last week of the elections, probably it will go up a little more because Mr. Deva Gowda himself has been campaigning. If you look at the aggression with which he has been campaigning in the last few days, I think that is going to make a significant difference. And he has also countered Modi pretty, aggressively 2 days back.
Right.
That is in Chanpatna. So, that may grow up, but, by and large, the Congress seems to have, gained quite a bit. And that's the trend that we have been hearing too. So there's no surprises here.
I just wanted to go across to GVL Narasimha Rao. Sir, one of the key findings over here is on the entire issue of more corruption, right? And 59% of those polled say that the BJP is more corrupt, as opposed to 35% saying that the Congress is corrupt. Now, in an election which has been fought at one level, on the entire issue of corruption, at least that's what the Congress says, if you've got data which actually suggests that people believe that the BJP is more corrupt, how would you respond? I mean, how significant is that in terms of your campaign?
Good evening to you, Vishnu, and all the panelists. First of all, let me sound a word of caution on the
Sure.
poll itself. Am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, let me sound a word of caution on the sample itself. In an election, which is actually a three-way contest, and the complexion varies across regions, a sample of 2,000 is too small. I've been a pollster, and there are occasions where we work with small samples, but a prediction closer to the election in a state where margins of victory are very small, and it's a three-way contest, I think one needs to really examine poll results, and one needs to look at them with a great deal of circumspection. So that's the first caution I would give you. And because when you break down that sample into Vakalikas, Lingayats, you're looking at a sample of 300 people, 400 people, that's the numbers you have. So these, and to assess trends over time with that kind of a sample could be is fraught with serious risk.
Let's
So
get a
therefore,
reaction to
it's
that. In terms of the size, the point that he mentions, is that a concern?
For GVL Narasimha Rao ji, it may be a concern, but I would agree that if the sample is slightly larger, but I think GVL Narasimha Rao would also agree that suppose you have taken a sample of 5,000 or 10,000, would that have meant sample being far more representative or the data having far more confidence on the data? We have calculated the margin of error, GVL Narasimha ji, and this is less than 2% margin of error. This is 1.79% margin of error. So we all agree that these are estimates, but the estimate doesn't mean that if the data is saying 40%, it would be in the range of say 20% or 60%. We are getting, through the survey, we come more or less close to what is the situation on the ground, and that is what this survey has been able to capture.
No. You see, Vishnu, as having been a pollster, a poll of this size a few months before elections is all right, because it gives you a trend well before the campaign begins. But now this is possibly your last poll, and a small sample of this size can really be a matter of great challenge. But anyway, Sanjay has it.
Point taken, sir.
No, you see, if let me tell you, if elections can be predicted with less than 2% margin of error with 2,000 samples, and then we are wasting thousands of crores of money in conducting elections. So I don't think we can satisfy ourselves.
Okay,
Mr. Rao,
we're
not making a prediction on this. It's just a directional trend that we are trying to assess as far as this is concerned. Now,
Yes.
now, quick
Broadly,
reaction.
I will answer the question that Vishnu has posed, okay, with all the caveats. I think let's carry this discussion forward. Okay. In Karnataka, there has certainly been a campaign against the BJP's government. And I have been in Karnataka myself. It's been somewhat an issue with the urban electorate. It does not really mean, it's more of an equalizer in the rural electorate.
But let me
Well,
ask you one more question, GVL Narasimha Rao, because it affects the BJP before we get the other parties as well. I spoke about corruption, but even if you look at the entire issue of nepotism, where they're saying that 59% of those polled, and it's the same statistic, corruption and nepotism. Nepotism, 59% of those polled say that the BJP is more nepotistic. You know, your policies have been against parties with dynasty, and yet there are viewers, I beg your pardon, voters over there in this poll who say that you are more nepotistic. How would you respond to that?
I think it simply sounds, I can only say it's completely disbelievable. It's not believable. The BJP cannot be compared with any, see, if I don't know, if the same poll said JDS is a democratic party which does not have any dynastic, Congress is a party which runs on non-dynastic principle, then I think I will question the poll itself. I don't know whether it was a motivated poll, because if JDS is a party which is a father and son party, the Congress is a dynastic party, Okay, if there are some people in the BJP also who may have got tickets and their fathers may have been in politics, but that's a very limited number.
Okay, all right. So
This is a matter of perception.
We'll
This
just
is a-
move on. Why don't you,
This is a matter of perception.
And we'll
let
come
me just
back to you in
move
a
on
second,
to the
yeah.
Congress as well. And I think we should just get a quick Congress reaction because there are other issues as well that need to be focused on. It is interesting though, as Sanjay Kumar, that JDS is rated as 8% nepotistic. A party which is run by one family is rated as 8% nepotistic.
No, Veera, just to clarify, what happens in the survey, since the entire mahal is between BJP and Congress,
yeah.
so the people's responses get
Linked to
attracted
those
to
parties
yes.
primarily.
Yes, JDS gets marginalized because people are not looking at JDS as the contender for power.
Correct.
And that is why,
I think
and this is perception, this is not factual.
Correct. Got it. Let me just shift focus and ask Rajiv Gowda this question, just taking the focus away from corruption and nepotism and faction-ridden alone. The Lingayat vote that the Congress seems to have gone after in this election, 67% according to this, and this could be the crucial election factor in Karnataka, the two caste votes. 67% say they are intending to vote for the BJP, which is a suggestion that the Lingayat vote is firmly with the BJP. And this poll was taken just after the Shettar exit, the Savdi exit, and all the controversial issues that the BJP had to face. What do you have to say for that?
First, I want to point out that Mr. Narasimha Rao is hiding behind technicalities. Whether you poll 2,000 people or when you poll 6 crore people on election day, you will find that you will get the same numbers. People are going to reject the BJP as the most corrupt party. 59% is an underestimate. Okay, the point about the Lingayat community is a surprise to me. What we are hearing from the ground is that there's a tremendous amount of backlash against the BJP for sidelining an entire cadre of senior BJP Lingayat leaders, Yediyurappa and Shettar being former chief minister, Savadi being a former deputy chief minister. They sent Somana, another senior Lingayat leader, to fight in 2 other constituencies where he's not going to win. It's as if there's a clear, Peshwa ploy to essentially eliminate a Lingayat contender from chief minister possibilities. The other aspect, of course, is on the dynastic front. You can see that the BJP is the most hypocritical party when it keeps mouthing these statements against dynasty or corruption or whatever the Prime Minister likes to, the latest falsehood that he likes to propagate. The basic point is that they are filled with dynasties, whether it's the Yediyurappa dynasty, whether it is the Jarkiholi dynasty, Reddy brothers. Here, Tejasvi Surya and his uncle contest.
All right. So I'm going to interrupt you now because I just want to keep the strike rotating. Let's quickly move on now to the next set of graphics that we have. And what we are looking at over here, in larger questions on the political campaign itself. And so the question that we were asking in the last couple of questions, in fact, in the last 1 month, have you received any political messages from the following parties on your phone? Of course, we list the parties. And then in the last 1 month, has any worker or candidate from the following parties come to your house or contacted you personally? So in the last month, look at the left. Have you been contacted? Have you received political messages on the phone? 26% of those who've been polled say that as far as the BJP, they've got calls or political messages from the BJP. 18% say they've got messages from the JDS. 21% say they've got messages from the Congress party. So in terms of outreach, it can be said that in terms of political messages on the phone, the BJP ahead of the other parties. Has a party worker contacted you personally? 28% of people say that yes, the BJP has contacted us. 24% say the Congress, 24%. That's interesting, say the JDS. So in terms of outreach by party workers, it's equal for the JDS and the Congress, the BJP ahead. So that's interesting. So in both of these data points, it is the BJP which seems to have had more of a, an outreach as compared to the others.
The traditional strength of the BJP. Quick response on campaigning, because I think the earlier set of data that we put out, Vishnu, still warrants a bigger discussion, a couple of more reactions from our guests because of all the thing on corruption, nepotism. But as far as campaigning is concerned, BJP a little more effective at the moment?
Absolutely. The data is self-explanatory. You see that BJP's campaign is more aggressive in a sense. The reach out of BJP is far much better compared to the Congress or the JDS.
But that JDS and Congress being equal as far as workers were concerned, that's a significant, and it's impressive as far as the JDS is concerned, that they've matched the Congress, face for face, as it were.
Yeah, that is pretty much quite interesting, especially with the Congress and JDS even coming close to the BJP, because given how the BJP is a cadre-based party, reaching out to last mile voter, it's always been the BJP's forte, but it also then probably indicates the motivation amongst the cadres of the Congress and JDS, where there is a sense that the BJP is on a back foot.
So let's just quickly take a look at some of the other aspects of the campaign itself. Let's take a look at about yatras, and are people aware of the yatras which have taken place? The popularity of yatras, as it were. The question quite simple: have you heard of these yatras? So, and we've got a split between rural and urban areas and also age-wise. But let's talk about rural-urban first. 36% of people polled in rural areas say that they've heard of the BJP's Vijay Sankalp Yatra. 42% in urban areas. The Congress's Bharat Jodo Yatra, 36%, so equal. In terms of Bharat Jodo Yatra is as well heard of as the BJP's Vijay Sankalp Yatra in rural areas, but 46% of the Bharat Jodo Yatra people polled say that they've heard of if they were in urban areas. And the JDS's campaign, 29% of respondents in rural areas say they've heard of it, and equal in urban. So the JDS, again, interestingly, it is at 29%, lower than the other two, but they've got a bit of a split over there. And let's take a look age-wise. 43% of those polled between the ages of 18 to 25 say that they've heard of the BJP's Yatra in the 56-plus age group. It's lower at 30%. Bharat Jodo, that's what the Congress has been banking on now for a while. 42% between 18 to 25 say that in Karnataka say that they've heard of Bharat Jodo, as 32% among older people. And finally, 34 and 19 as far as the JDS is concerned. Now, if you've heard and did you participate in the BJP's Vijay Sankalp Yatra, 41% in rural areas say that they did. Interestingly, 52% in urban areas say they did. Bharat Jodo, again, there is a split, there is an inclination within urban areas at 47 as opposed to 30 in rural areas. And as far as the JDS, it's much more of an urban outreach as opposed to the JDS is concerned. And if you look at the age-wise sort of split over here, the BJP's Vijay Sankalp Yatra, 18 to 25, 34%, 56 years and above, 41%. So that's interesting if you've heard and did you participate in. Congress 37 and 38 and JDS 38 and 44% in terms of those who are older. So Sanjay, what exactly in terms of outreach or understanding or people knowing about these yatras can we draw a conclusion on?
I think, Vishnu, very simple. If you look at the awareness, more among the younger voters, but if you look at the participation rate, it is more among the elderly. Yeah. And there is a rural-urban divide when it comes to participation and awareness, more among urban areas, less among the rural areas, for all the three yatras of the three political parties.
Right. So, but that's as far as the campaigning is concerned, but grassroots realities, let's go back to what it was, Vishnu, just going back into that question, getting Chandan Gowda here on the JDS question. And I think that's a very important question, as important as the Lingayat question as well. Chandan, very quickly, what do you think is in store for the JDS? Given that they seem to be, you have a DK Shivkumar who's leading the Congress in the state. He is from the old Mysore region. And I remember a few days ago when I traveled in Mandya, a place where 7 of the 7 seats was won by the JDS in the last elections in 2018. The BJP is campaigning hard, the Congress is campaigning hard. Is the JDS fighting a battle for survival?
It is a battle for survival, for remaining relevant in an important way in Karnataka's politics. Very quickly, the statistic that was shared earlier, about 36% of the Vokkaligas behind JDS, I think that's what they've always had. And it's always 40% of the Vokkaliga vote, plus the support of Muslims. That has been their winning combination. So I don't think it's declined drastically. The last time when we saw huge support from Mandi, they won all 7 seats there, it was because of Siddaramaiah being perceived as an anti-Vokkaliga person, and that helped them in a very big way. So I don't think there's any drastic change in the support base among the Vokkaligas for the JDS is concerned. And the other interesting thing is if 59% of the Muslims are supporting the Congress, that leaves 40% of them behind other parties. And where is that support going to go? And unlike last time, and here's where Sanjay Kumar should help us, I think there was a bigger Muslim support for the Congress last elections. That doesn't look to be the case this time, which means they're voting strategically, depending on who's the closest rival to the BJP, which I think is good news for JDS.
All right.
About numbers, I can't be sure.
All right, Chandan, we'll come back to you in the second segment, and I assure all our viewers that this second segment is really big because we've got some interesting data coming up.
On the
Veera?
On who is the most preferred candidate for chief minister, and this was not a prompt given to the voters with a bunch of names. They were just asked who you prefer to be the most preferred candidate for chief minister, and they've answered. Give us the response. We'll come back with that when we get back from the break.
All coming up next. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Now it's time for that big personality question. Who is the tallest personality virtually in Karnataka politics at the moment, Vishnu?
And if you've been actually looking at our poll yesterday and today, then you'll know that it all sort of comes down to this. So let's roll out those big names and let's roll out the graphics and mention right off the top that when we asked people after the upcoming assembly election, who would you prefer as the next chief minister of Karnataka? We didn't provide the names. The names they provided. And this is what the data has to say. Mr. Siddaramaiah, the preferred chief minister, by and far at 40%. Mr. Bommai, Mr. Basavaraj Bommai at 22%. H.D. Kumaraswamy 15%. D.K. Shiv Kumar at 4%. B.S. Yediyurappa at 5%. Others 12%. No response too. So Mr. Siddaramaiah by far and above the others in terms of the preferred chief ministerial candidate. So we'll stay on this for just a few moments. Let's take in these numbers once again. Mr. Basavaraj Bommai second. And I think the significant point over here, Veera, is that the gap between an opposition leader as the potential number one and an incumbent chief minister is possibly larger than we've seen perhaps any time before.
So there are two takeaways from this to me. One, it's not great news for the BJP that they don't have a personality to match Siddaramaiah, and I think Siddaramaiah and Yediyurappa are the two big personalities in Karnataka, and that's widely accepted factor. Mr. Kharge as well, but Siddaramaiah, Yediyurappa mainly in the state, and the BJP doesn't have a personality to match Siddaramaiah. Perhaps that's coming out. But the second, and I think it's not great news for many in the Congress itself. I think D.K. Shivkumar and the other veteran Congress leaders would be worried when they see this kind of a personality thing for Mr. Siddaramaiah, Vishnu. So it is, perhaps the tallest leader within the Congress, arguably, categorically, as Sanjay has been pointing out earlier, and now clearly possibly the most popular leader in the state.
I think the next set of graphics is also very interesting because it throws up a split between how voters are actually going to vote. Will they be voting for the party? Will they be voting for a face? And if so, will they be voting for the leader in their local area, or will they be voting for a chief ministerial face? So the question is this: while deciding who to vote for in this assembly election, what did you give more consideration or importance to, the party or the candidate? 56% of those polled over here say that they place the party as number one. 38% said it is the candidate. In terms of chief ministerial candidate, in other words, somebody says that I believe that this is the right person to be the leader at 4%, and we had no responses over there. So party or candidate, who is more significant? Sanjay, how would you look at this? Does this come as a bit of a surprise where, the large number of people say that they are in favor of voting for the party and not the leader?
No, Vishnu, this is not a surprise. This is the trend across state, except barring the smaller state. If you look at the small state, where candidate becomes more important. If you look at the Goa, Nagaland, Manipur and several other small states. In such state, candidate becomes more important than the party. But I think Vishnu,
in assembly elections, of
in
course,
an assembly election, Vishnu, but if you show the next slide, next set of data, is there a difference in terms of Congress voters and BJP voters? That's an interesting
and before that, Vishnu, I must also say, given that we put Siddaramaiah up at 40%, I think the fact that you may be a very popular candidate, but you may not be able to win the election on the basis of that popularity, because on the basis of CM candidate, only 4% want to vote a particular.
Right.
What gives you more when you're casting, party or candidate? When it comes to chief ministerial candidate, it's only 4% which says that. So I think.
But I think what you were talking about, the split among the parties, right? In this, let's have that graphic up as well. The question is, while deciding who to vote for in these assembly elections, what did you give more consideration to, the party or candidates? So let's have that graphic up in terms of how people actually voted, in terms of what Congress voters thought, what BJP voters thought, and what JDS voters thought. So Sanjay, again, let's come back to you. Congress voters, 66% of them said no. As far as we are concerned, it is the party. Whereas for BJP voters, it's much more even Steven, right? A party or the candidate, and then you've got the JDS. So again, how would you, so BJP candidate 47 and party 49, almost the same. How would you interpret this?
This data indicate that there is a general mahal in favor of Congress, because a large number of voters indicated, Congress voters, that they are voting, they intend to vote for Congress, not because they have put up good candidates or bad candidates, irrespective of the quality of candidate. We are not evaluating candidate, but we are intent to vote for Congress because we are voting for the party as such.
Correct. And I think when you say this, Vishnu, as we are talking about it, it may be time to get GVL Narasimha Rao's reaction on Siddaramaiah getting such a high approval rating. Does it worry you, Mr. Narasimha Rao, that, after Yediyurappa, BJP does not seem to have that strong regional personality who can champion the party in Karnataka, where Siddaramaiah seems to be emerging as the most popular leader?
Raghav, let me differ with Sanjay on 2 points here. Because I'm not disputing the findings of the survey, but the interpretation of it. Point number 1, it is wrong to assume that leaders do not influence election outcomes in assembly elections. They do not have the, in Karnataka that seems to be the case. That's what your poll indicates. But several elections that we have won in Gujarat, as Chief Minister Modi ji was the one who pulled the election results in party's favor. Several elections, every election. Yogi Adityanath ji was a big factor in winning the election in 2017. We have won several elections repeatedly in Madhya Pradesh. Again, the Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan was a big factor. So to assume that leaders do not influence outcome of an election in every state is wrong. But in Karnataka, what your survey indicates is that people are making their voting choices based on their party loyalties and on image of the performance of or image of the candidates. This is how it is normally in assembly elections, but there are several exceptions to it that I have just narrated. So in Karnataka, no leader is able to pull the election in his or her party's favor. Number 1. Number 2, to assume that because more Congress voters vote for the party and not for the candidate, the mahal is in favor of the Congress is again an erroneous explanation, in my opinion, because if you look at the profile of the people who vote for the Congress, not just in Karnataka, in any state, the number of uneducated voters, less educated voters for the Congress is typically more than for the BJP. If you look at the performance of the BJP, with the literate people, with educated people, BJP performs even better. So therefore, in Karnataka, the leadership ratings that your survey shows is not in any way impacting the...
We have mentioned that, sir. We have mentioned that as well. With all this one, we've said that the CM, the popular choice of Chief Minister as a reason for voting was only 4%. So, but yet, the fact that Siddaramaiah remains the most popular leader, Rajiv Gowda, is that a worry within the Congress itself for those other chief ministerial aspirants in the party that Siddaramaiah remains the tallest leader with it?
Not at all, Viraghav. First, let me point out to Mr. Narasimha Rao that the way he talks down to the people of Karnataka, those who are less educated, is something to be condemned. I really am aghast that a person who was my colleague in the Rajya Sabha would speak down to uneducated voters.
You have
Anyway,
not understood.
now back to my point.
Mr. Rajiv Gowda, that's
I
not,
heard you.
that's
I
not
heard
what
you,
said.
Narasimha Rao. I heard you loud and clear.
Congress
Everyone else
gets-
did. Okay?
No,
This is
Mr. Gowda,
terrible.
you
This
No, come on,
kind
both of you, let's not
talking
fight
down
on
to
this.
our voters.
And Rajiv, let's not get personal either. Come on, let's just look at the data,
No,
and
I
we've got the
said
JDS waiting as well.
Congress gets more votes among the less educated.
All right, let's get Mr. Gowda to give a response, and then I'll go across to my other panelists. Mr. Gowda, go ahead.
So what is heartening is that 40 plus 4%, 44% of the voters are in favor of a Congress chief minister. And there may be a few more percent that has not been counted. Amongst them, they are probably clearly saying that the tried hand, someone who already we know, whose track record was so inclusive and progressive and, and dynamic, they are bringing, that's probably the first name that comes in terms of voter recall. And that's probably the reason why you see this. As far as the Congress is concerned, the decision on chief ministership will be made after the election by the MLAs. And Mr. Siddaramaiah is the leading contender. Mr. Shivkumar is the leading contender. There are others as well.
All right, I just wanted to go across to Syed Aslam, who joins us as well. You've been waiting very patiently. You've had a look at a lot of this data. Where would you assess the performance of your own party?
Well, Vishnu, thanks for bringing in now, and I've been patiently waiting for more than 40 minutes. Vishnu, let me tell you.
No, we lost your line in between, so that was one of the reasons. But go ahead, yeah.
All right, so Vishnu, let me tell you, this elections, the Karnataka elections, is about the pride of Kannadigas. It's about the Asmita and Garv of Kannadigas. This election is not about the setting up the national agenda. This election, see, let me tell you, JDS is the strongest emerging force. We are going to come as the strongest emerging force. We being the regional party, we are going to come strongest emerging force. And let's not forget, you might ignore me for 40 minutes in this debate, but the people of Karnataka will not ignore us. We have seen how the Pancharatna Yatra has happened across the 224 constituencies. We have seen the masses coming out, in the Pancharatna Yatra. We are connected with the people. We understand the sentiment and the pulse of Kannadigas, and there is a clear undercurrent for a regional force. And of course, we're going to capitalize on this. Yeah. Talking about the BJP is reeling under the pressure of anti-incumbency. They're reeling under the pressure of anti-corruption on the corruption charges. And there is there's no discussion about the development. There's no discussion about how to improve the agricultural sector. There is no discussion about the irrigational projects which have been pending for a long time in Karnataka. And both the national parties are picking up the the national issues, and you can name some of them from the BJP. They're picking up NRC, Uniform Civil Code, and all these issues. These are non-issues,
Syed,
and we feel absolutely sorry.
Syed, sorry for interrupting you there.
Yes.
I know you've been patiently waiting. I didn't have the patience because the point you were making, I think, is our next graphic as well. And this is a very, very important graphic. This is about disapproval ratings for the ruling government. How many people disapprove of the ruling government? Poor, 67% amongst the poor, there is a disapproval rating. 58% amongst lower classes, 52% amongst middle income groups, 49% amongst the rich. This is an important graphic. Disapproval rating of the ruling government, rural areas 61% and urban areas 50%. So this is again a very important number here, Vishnu, because Sanjay, this is again a big takeaway as an assessment of the government. I'm worried that again Mr. Narasimha Rao will go into questioning the data point for it, but quick reaction from you before we get all our guests back.
Yeah. I think very simple interpretation of the data is that if we look at the voters in terms of various economic classes, the ruling BJP government seems to be less popular among the poor and more popular among the rich. So there is a class divide if how people assess the ruling party, the ruling government in BJP in Karnataka during last 5 years.
Is this what the last leg of campaigning is about, Mr. Narasimha Rao, the focus for this to change this narrative. What would you say?
No, Raghav, I have not questioned with the caveat at the start. I have not questioned the data. I'm only questioning, or I'm giving my own interpretation.
Correct. Sure.
I think the numbers that you present they are not surprising at all, because the BJP won last elections. Rather, we came first in the fractured mandate in 2018 with a 34% vote share. And therefore, for you to say 51% people are not too happy with the government, that would have been the case on day one when this government was formed. Because
All right, we'll come back to him. Yeah.
Will always have a higher anti-incumbency data.
Yeah, sir, your signal is breaking up. We'll just come back to you in a moment. I wanted to go across to Professor James Manner again. He's been waiting very patiently. What is your reading, Professor Manner, of the disapproval ratings per class? I mean, is there a class basis on which some parties are doing significantly better than others? How do you read these data points?
These data are consistent with patterns elsewhere in India, but also with the figures that emerged from an interesting poll that Yogendra Yadav helped to organize. It emerged last week. It's quite striking that there is this difference. On the other hand, I would stress that if 49% of rich people in India, in Karnataka, are disapproving of the ruling party is in trouble, because those are the traditional, those people and the middle classes are the traditional backers of the BJP. This is quite a worrying finding. I should also say that when we talked about Mr. Siddharamaya's popularity, I think it may be linked to this kind of finding and to Mr. Siddharamaya's espousal of the Ahinda strategy, which privileges disadvantaged groups. It may be connected to that. It's not entirely name recognition for Mr. Siddharamaya as well. So there may be some substance in that finding.
Right. That's interesting that you point that out. We don't have data to go into that bit, but let's just quickly get Shugata Srinivasaraju as well. We are in the last 10 days of campaigning, Shugata. You've seen this data here. Is this the narrative that the BJP is working to change on the grassroots? And do you think that they will be successful?
I think they're certainly trying to work very hard to change the narrative. I mean, I more or less agree with the numbers that have been put out, and I agree with what Professor Manner said. So there is, BJP is unpopular across classes and castes. Now that's something that's coming out very, very clearly from the numbers. But when the graphic about Siddaramaiah being popular, I think you've made his life very difficult. Not that people outside his party are going to work to finish him off, but I think more and more Congress people are going to be deployed to sort of make life difficult for him. And also another nuance there is that, see, Yediyurappa has already retired. Yeah. He has announced his retirement. He's not contesting. So obviously people would not be picking him as their chief ministerial preference. Right. So, so that 5% is something that I don't think is correct, because if Yediyurappa was a strong contender, or if he was leading the party, I'm sure his approval rating would be far higher. That's something very, very important. And Basuraj Bommai's would sort of come down, because if Yediyurappa was a stronger kind of, if he was leading the party and if he was contesting a poll, and if he was projected as the future chief minister, at least by default, then I think his approval rating will be very, very, very high. I'm really surprised with that 4% for Yediyurappa, because he is popular. Let's not forget.
That's right. That's right. You're right.
I just wanted to go very quickly to Professor Chandan Gowda and just bring in two sets of data. Firstly, what we've looked at today in terms of disapproval of the ruling government on an economic class basis, poor, lower, middle and rich. And then yesterday, the data which we had looked at issues such as employment and unemployment and what people actually across Karnataka looked at it. So if you were to actually look at all of this data and sort of look at what it all projects, would you say that economic reasons, whether it is employment or the lack of employment generation, economic agenda actually define the views of a large number of people in Karnataka ahead of these elections?
It's interesting. If you look at the poll promises being made by the JDS and the Congress, and also the BJP to the extent, whatever is being ridiculed as freebies, etc., they're actually addressing these very real issues by giving them an unemployment goal, free cylinders, money for a woman in every household, money for the elderly, etc. These are all short-term measures, of course, but they're all addressing the very real economic issues. Right. So alongside that, you have symbolic issues being put aside. Right? JDS will say we're a regional party, we're a farmer-friendly party, and the Congress will call itself, we are here for community harmony, etc. And the BJP will talk about Hindutva, etc. But if you look inside the manifesto promises, you couldn't be clearer that economic problems are driving this election.
Right. Let's get Rajiv Gowda as well. Rajiv, from now to election day, what do you think is the most crucial challenge for the Congress party, given that you have such an extensive campaign by the Prime Minister and several cabinet ministers? Do you think that they can change the narrative from local issues, anti-incumbency at the local level, to something of a national narrative which could be a disadvantage to you?
We also have an array of national leaders campaigning. We have Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi and Congress President Kharge, our own Siddaramaiah and D.K. Shivakumar. They've fanned out across the state, and you're going to see a very, very massive outreach, and that's happening. What we have to worry about is, the BJP's, they're flush with resources, and they are probably going to be expending those resources in a way that is an attempt to try and sway people's votes. I don't expect that will have any kind of a significant impact. But the main thing is, the Prime Minister has been here in previous elections. Mr. Amit Shah has been here in previous elections. And they've made promises. They've announced, various things that were supposed to have been fulfilled by 2022 and haven't seen the light of day. You're seeing in the kind of opinion poll numbers, the people's reaction. People basically don't believe the statements made by the Prime Minister or the Home Minister. And the fact is that they're not touching upon the pain points. They're not dealing with unemployment.
Sure.
They're not dealing with corruption. So I think whatever else they talk about, people are going to listen to it for celebrity value and ignore it when it comes to it.
All right. Well, let's see if that's the case. In fact, that was my nenext question to GVL Narasimha Rao, who's back. And would you like to tell us a little bit more, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you believe that if you look at this poll data and you look at the entire leadership issue, it is the leadership ultimately of Narendra Modi which is going to swing it for your party in Karnataka?
Vishnu, it's been, I think, for the last 9 years that he has been Prime Minister, Modi ji was able to deliver many state governments by virtue of his own standing and popularity. See, let me talk about 2017 Uttar Pradesh election, 2017 Uttarakhand election, Karnataka election, many elections. Even the recent Uttarakhand elections, the Chief Minister may have lost, but then the party won handsomely. Prime Minister Modi was a big factor. He's a huge positive factor for the BJP. And certainly his impact will take the party several notches higher than what it is usually, what it is otherwise. And for the Congress, certainly the Rahul Gandhi is certainly a burden. Because let me tell you, for many days, this is what the media had reported, many days, the Congress leaders in Karnataka were not willing to allow Rahul Gandhi to come to Karnataka for campaign. They said, we will handle it ourselves. And I want to ask Sanjay, our friend Sanjay, CSDS, did you ask any question about disqualification of Rahul Gandhi? Because many people, many journalists interpreted that this will be a huge sympathy for Rahul Gandhi, but he was not even asked to come to Karnataka to campaign for several days after his disqualification.
No, GVL, we have not asked this question, but we are planning to ask this question in one of the other surveys nationally.
Right.
We did not ask this question. In
So, Mr. Rao, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think in the Congress BJP battle, the JDS seems to get lost sometimes, and poor Syed Aslam has been waiting. Do we still have Mr. Aslam from the JDS? He seems to have dropped out. I was going to pose that question. Let's get a quick reaction from Sanjay Shastri, our panelist. Sanjay Shastri, quickly, what do you think the big takeaway from this data that you've seen today is?
I think combining what we had about employment and poverty yesterday and today, the rural-urban divide in the approval of the government, I think moving forward the next 10 days, for the Congress, it's going to be key is going to be consolidating this, using the issue of unemployment and poverty, addressing that and consolidating the popularity amongst the rural voters. And for the BJP, it's going to be to reverse that trend in the next 10 days. If through the manifesto, if they're able to address some of these points.
Quick reaction from Chandan Gowda, Shugata Srinivasa Raju as well on from now to the 10th of May, the most crucial issue that you think is going to play out in Karnataka.
The parties have made their, key attractions of why they should be elected. Now, how effective will they be in making sure everyone gets it and they stay with it and not get distorted by other sorts of messaging that cloud the communication field from now on is one. And the role of money, this is something that I don't know if any surveys can tap into in the last few days. That's going to be hugely determining. And we all know which parties have more money and who are more effective at, funding them through, etc. I think it's these two things that will, and we don't want any faux pas, for example, in how people speak, etc. Which
10 seconds, Sugata, final thoughts.
Yeah, between today and the 10th, Veera, I think all the economic issues that we have discussed will take the back seat, and sentiment and emotion will start playing. I think it will be more and more issues which will sort of, garner emotional support will be played, as it is already happening. Today, the Congress, I think, after the release of their manifesto, the PFI and Bajrang Dal issue has come in. I think
that could be a real peg going forward.
Those things will get picked, and Modi will start bowling googlies. I'm quite sure. So if they were...
Let's see.
BJP is not going to make it big.
Let's see if it's Mr. Bomai with the X factor sort of attached over there.
If the BJP was getting
debates even after the 13th of May, given the nature of Karnataka's number game that plays out. So.
All right. I'm just interrupting you now because, and that really is a takeaway that 10 days going forward, it is going to be perhaps the X factor which is going to define a lot of this. What exactly is that X factor? We will know. Literally, we are completely out of time, Mr. GVL Narasimha Rao. We'll leave it over there. But in case you've been watching this, thank you very much. We've done this with a great deal of passion and interest and integrity in terms of how we believe this to be representative of a large number of people. But at the end of the day, it's the voter that matters.
That's right, and there is still 10 days to go.
And that's a key point. It is still 10 days to go.
For the campaigning, and the last minute campaigning things can change, who knows. So that's why we are staying away from making any clear predictions as far as this. This is just to gauge the mood at the grassroots in Karnataka.
Thank you very much for being with us. Good night.